I'll stand for the pledge. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
roll call.
Dan Pillow. Lisa Stafford.
Here.
Dan Dalton.
Here.
Dan Pillow. Steve Dalton.
Here.
Pam Jackson. Here.
Council, Dan Pillow and Ann Pillow are still in Florida helping their daughter. What's your pleasure on that?
I make a motion we excuse them from the meeting.
Yeah.
I'll second.
Motion by Lisa, second by Pam. Any discussion? No discussion, we'll vote.
Lisa Stafford.
Yay.
Dan Dalton.
Yay.
Steve Dalton.
Yay.
Pam Jackson.
Council, if you don't mind, before we get started into regular business, I just wanted to introduce you to, one of the officers you probably already know, our new officers. We have Eric Crosty.
Hello.
And I didn't know if you guys had any questions for him, wanted to ask him anything.
Thank you for helping us out.
You're welcome. Happy to be here.
Where are you coming from?
I'm coming from home. I work early.
No. Everybody's got to be careful how you answer questions. What is your previous experience, sir? Is that better?
Oh, I guess, okay. I used to work over in Elmwood. I worked there, kind of similar to Addyston. I worked there for about 6.5 years. Worked for Butler County Sheriff's Department as well, so
Awesome.
that's my experience.
Cool.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
Not after that.
And also Andrew Pansy, he was going to be here, but he had to work. And then, of course, I think most of you by now have met Darnell Pate.
So Darnell.
He makes himself well known.
Where are you coming from, Darnell?
That's not his name. You know what his new name is.
Oh, yeah, Popsicle, I'm sorry. You realize that everybody in this department is going to end up with a sweet treat name the way it's going. We're seeing that.
All right. So now,
Gonna start in a minute.
no, his mom didn't show up, so
Okay.
they were going to do that, but he didn't. Thank you guys for showing up. Guess we'll have the minute.
You have minutes from the May 18th meeting.
Council, what's your pleasure?
I'll make a motion to accept the May 18th minutes.
Second?
Motion by Pam, second by Dan. Any questions? Any questions, we'll vote.
Lisa Stafford.
Yay.
Dan Dalton.
Yay.
Steve Dalton.
Yay.
Pam Jackson. Yay. Then you've received pay ordinance A6 for 2015. This was bi-weekly payroll that was paid on June the 3rd. Total dispersed from the general fund was $11,000.24.
I find that interesting.
I'll make a motion to second. From the number, trying to find it.
Have a second?
Second.
Somebody need a copy? No.
Motion by Pam Jackson, second by Dan. Any discussion?
Just to remind everybody that there shouldn't be overtime right now unless there's an absolute state of emergency for the budget. And I know we already addressed it to the Finance Committee, but I just wanted to kind of bring that back to General Counsel. Just a reminder.
Well, for this pay period that went in today, there was none. This is from like 2 weeks ago, so.
All right. Ready to vote?
Lisa Stafford.
Yay.
Dan Dalton.
Yay.
Steve Dalton.
Yay.
Pam Jackson. Yay. And you have B6, and this is for the monthly salaries, all dispersed from the general fund, $7,719.05.
Make a motion to accept B6 2020.
I'll second.
Motion by Pam, second by Lisa. Any discussion? No discussion, we'll vote.
Lisa Stafford,
Yay.
Dan Dalton,
Yay.
Steve Dalton,
Yay.
Pam Jackson.
Yay.
Then you have C6, and this is for accounts payable. Dispersed from the general fund, $5,169 from our fire EMS fund, $527.60 from the state highway fund, $219.67, for a combined total of $5,916.27.
Make a motion, we accept ordinance C6, 2020.
I'll second
Motion by Steve, second by Pam. Any discussions? No discussion, we'll vote.
Lisa Stafford,
Yay.
Dan Dalton,
Yay.
Steve Dalton,
Yay.
Pam Jackson.
it. Yay.
Then you received a copy of the Addyston Board of Public Affairs March meeting minutes, the collections report for April that was collected in May, their pay ordinance for May, their collection report for March that was collected in April, their pay sheet from April, the February collections for the month of March, and their March pay sheet. And the reason you're getting all of that is because they hadn't met and they had the one meeting, so they did everything in the one meeting. And the only thing that you just have to read the minutes to see what they did.
They did the pay rate for the water clerk.
They're recommending it, and it has been explained to the water clerk that council is responsible for raises, and it was recommended that they submit something to the finance committee to be submitted to council when the other raises are discussed. And I have expressed that a couple times to them. So I just wanted her to know that it wasn't going to happen if she was anticipating a change in her salary. So it has been explained, so.
You gonna take that back to the committee?
It was taken back to committee once before. It was, the last time it was in the minutes, council accepted the minutes, all but that section to be referred to the finance committee.
Yeah, and we, at the time, it was, we said we didn't recommend it because at the time we weren't giving raises for anybody else. I believe that when this was last brought up, that was the reason. We can take it back to committee and make sure they can afford it and then bring that back to council.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
So I'll put that on the next time finance meets to double check and make sure they can afford it.
So are you going to approve everything else with just that, or?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes except for the part about the raise. But they do need to probably submit their reasoning to the finance committee. Take
Second.
Motion by Pam, second by Dan Dalton. Any discussion? No discussion, we'll vote.
Lisa Stafford,
Yay.
Dan Dalton,
Yay.
Steve Dalton,
Yay.
Pam Jackson.
Yay.
Give me just a minute, I'm sorry,
Oh,
you're
you're
making a
fine.
note.
Mhm.
Okay. That's all I have, Mayor.
And thank you, Margaret.
You're welcome.
I have a few things in here I'd like to ask council. Let's see where should I start. Okay, first off, for our 4th of July event, I would like to ask council permission to shut the street down from Germany to Dining on Saturday, but on Friday just from Church Street to Dining for setup purposes for the 4th festival event.
What was that again? Repeat it.
To shut the main street down from Germany to Dining on Saturday, but on, let's see, Friday and Sunday from Church to Dining, just for cleanup and setup. So 2 days it would only be between Church and Dining, but the day of it would be from Germany to Dining.
I'm sorry.
I'll make a motion to accept the proposal by the mayor for the,
Will dining be left open?
Yeah, Dining will be open.
Okay, I'm just making sure, like.
Yeah, no, I'm not shutting Addyston off.
We're leaving dining open, right? Otherwise, we're gonna have a
To that. No more clear to that, not shutting it off.
Just right there by the curb.
Yeah, pretty close.
I know I'm not on council, but I am a member of the VFW Auxiliary, and I gotta say this. You can't block their driveway, shut it
We're
off.
not.
You gotta make sure that the sign might say that, but you need to be able to let people in if we have members from out of town,
Yeah,
so.
we've already discussed that.
Okay.
They'll have a lane open. We've actually, I talked to the commander of the VFW, and he's well aware that we'll keep that lane coming in open for VFW members to come and go.
I second.
Oh, who made the motion? Lisa. Lisa made the motion, Pam seconded. Any discussion? And we already had discussion.
Sorry.
All
So
right.
that's my fault, I opened my mouth too soon.
All right, we'll vote.
Lisa Stafford,
yay.
Dan Dalton,
Yeah.
Steve Dalton,
Yeah,
Ann Jackson.
Yeah.
Mayor, are we gonna make sure we somehow communicate that to our,
Metro.
well, Metro, the villagers themselves, just so they know in case
Yeah.
there's an issue?
I think we posted two out here, and then I can do an all call as well to let everyone know. I sure can, so let's see. Okay, the other thing I would like to ask is also, I would like to ask council to go into a contract with Rousey Fireworks for $3,000 for fireworks show for the festival.
Mayor, can we get to the finance part and talk about the whole big picture before we get to that?
Oh, with the signing of the contract?
Yeah, so, because there's a whole piece of the money coming in, the money going out. Can we talk about that before we start approving expenses and things for it?
Sure.
Just, I want everybody, like, I know, like, finance.
Just I don't want to forget these things. So, all right. What else do we have? Okay, the only other thing I wanted to say, also is we had the community food drive this past Saturday, and it went really well, so I wanted to thank everybody who participated in that. And I guess, well, that's all I have at the moment. Did anybody hear from the treasurer?
That was the other thing. I haven't heard anything.
She, last I knew, she was going out of town Friday to Kentucky to her mother's.
Oh, so
But
she's probably
she
out
may
too.
not be back
Thank you.
You're welcome.
from her short weekend.
Okay, well, we'll deal with that next time, maybe. Okay, so then we'll just go to committee reports. Start with Lisa.
Nothing at this time, no.
All right, thanks, Lisa. Dan?
Nothing at this time. We did have I have to get the minutes back in. We did have a meeting, we discussed that given the tenor of the times and the way everything has to be covered, in order to keep up a viable policy manual, that it would probably be best to work with
Lexipol and adopt their way of doing it. There may be some things that'll end up being just basically germane to the village, and we can tack those on. But since they upgrade everything and keep it current with the ORC, and they also have best practices that are also within ORC guidelines, it would seem that adopting that would probably be our best bet. There was some discussion, and that's pretty much what we came up with.
So, is Lexipol, is that the one they were using?
That's-
Which one were they
That's-
using?
Lexipol is one
Yeah,
of them
when
using.
the question came up, it was Lexipol.
Okay, realistically, that thing is 615 pages long, at least 615. And so when you're using Lexipol, every one of these part-time officers is gonna have to be familiar with all the policies and procedures that are contained within Lexipol. And to the extent that they're not, and anything occurs, I mean, that has to be explained to them that they have to review that very carefully. So there are benefits to going with Lexipol, and then there's a realization that you essentially have part-time officers, and whether those officers are gonna go through that 615 pages, and whether the 615 pages is gonna be, is really gonna be viable for them.
Some of
In
the
other words,
some of the policies in that will not apply to us and they'll have to be removed. There are things I was gonna go over when I address council is that after talking to our rep from Lexipol, and the reason we had switched to Lexipol,
Weren't they supposed to be here tonight?
that's what I was gonna explain.
Oh, okay.
I hadn't got a chance to say all that yet.
The reason that we had made the switch to Lexipol was on the recommendation of the Ohio Collaborative thing that we're in with the state, where they're requiring all the departments to become part of the collaborative. And that was at their recommendation to go to them because of the less likelihood of us being sued by using their policy and procedure manual.
and I can readily agree with that. And you have to be familiar with all the policies and procedures in Lexipol in order to avoid that. So to the extent that you don't have training on it or do something to ascertain their knowledge,
They have to take this.
They send daily training bulletins out every month that they have to do.
okay? But the only thing I'm telling you is I would keep every one of them because you're gonna need them.
The trainings.
You're gonna need the training and all the daily trainings that they send out. And you should.
I don't have a way to download that. That comes to them and they do it and it goes back to Lexipol and shows that it was done.
And you, well,
You'd probably get with them and they could tell you what.
I'd have to check with the sales rep and see what she said on it.
I would get them and download them and put them in their file. So that if there's ever any problem down the road, that the village has the documentation. And that would be part of monitoring the situation to make sure every officer
Is
is.
doing the training.
Exactly.
I don't have a problem with
Yeah, I
going back to
agree
the
with
old
that.
policy and procedure manual. The only, like I explained in the police committee meeting when we talked about this, is if we go back to the standard police policy and procedure manual, which I still have a copy of it as well, who's going to make these updates every month with the Supreme Court? I don't have time to follow them. They've got 1,000 attorneys that watch the Supreme Court and all the courts across the United States every day so they can update this stuff. It doesn't, whichever council is more comfortable with, at your all's discretion, at your recommendation, we will go with.
The only thing I'm saying is, if you use Lexipol, just make sure that they read it, that they understand it, and that the training's provided to them
Yeah.
on it. Because you know as well as I do, if you've been watching the news,
Oh, yeah.
you know what the issues are.
Yeah.
No, that's part of everything that we discussed in the meeting. And it's, the way Don explained it to me, and that's part of why we wanted that person out here. There's some rather large sections of that are not applicable to us because being a small town and police work and can be omitted from that part of the manual as it were.
They were actually catering to us.
I would make sure that I had them out here
Well, yeah, that's the plan.
and that I had the documentation on what's required and what's not required, because they're gonna hold the Village of Addyston officers to the same standards that they'll hold the city of Cincinnati to. And when you adopt that Lexipol, somebody's gonna have to go through it line by line to make sure that what's contained in that booklet is applicable to the village. Because we've been through that where somebody's gone and gotten another policy and procedure manual. They just changed the name from one community to Addyston, and it calls for night shift commander, calling the detectives on duty, and all that type of stuff. So it really has to be tailored to the village.
Well, in part, in explanation, Don, correct me if I'm wrong, we don't handle murder investigations. This is just an example. We turn those over to the county, correct?
BCI.
Or BCI. Okay, so anything in that section of Lexipol's thing about how to handle this investigation is not germane to us, so that whole section can be taken off, correct?
Except for when their initial arrival at the scene.
Yeah, initial arrival and then transfer of responsibility. That's the kind of stuff I'm talking about. You know, if it's something we don't handle in-house, that can be eliminated right out from, you know, our portion of the policy and procedures that we adhere to from Lexipol.
Their rep, I'll just go ahead and let you know now, since we've had that question raised a couple times now. They are not allowed to travel at this time because of COVID-19. They're trying to find a local rep that lives in Ohio that is willing to drive down here. But our reps are all out of New York State.
Could we teleconference with them?
They did ask if we could possibly Zoom that. I told them I would ask you guys at the meeting, which is tonight. If you guys want to do a Zoom meeting with them, we can get her in on Zoom.
Do they have the proposed rules for the village at this point?
The way the policy, the way she explained it to me, the way that Lexipol works is the policies and procedures that they put forward are standardized across the state of Ohio. And then you can add or delete some things. The one thing she did bring to my attention late last week when I talked to her, she called me because she was going over, because remember when I added all you guys to Lexipol, I added you incorrectly. I added you as regular users where you're supposed to have read access only. So she was correcting that. Upon doing that, she called me because something concerned her with it. She said normally with every police agency they give it to, there's a 5 to 7% of the policy and procedures that are either altered or removed at every agency. She said 70% of our policies have been altered. And that is way above what, she said basically at this point, the manual that we have from them is no better than the manual we had before them because it has been altered and butchered so much.
Who altered it? Was it the previous chief?
Yes.
No, that's great.
So,
Explains the whole lot.
the thing that I'm saying is, if
If
they have a
It
booklet
was never
that they
by council.
normally
Right.
use,
It's all online.
but
Because what I had suggested when we were in the police committee meeting was if the approval was given to go ahead and stay with Lexipol to go over this, my recommendation was having myself a member of the police committee, the mayor, a member of laws and contracts, and you there to go through this policy and see what we feel should apply to us, what you don't feel should not apply to us. That way it is set up exactly the way council and you as the legal guy for the village know exactly what's in there, and we know exactly what's expected of us. That way there's no guessing.
But, I mean, the police department is like vitally important to this community and to every citizen who comes in contact with them. And I would think you'd want to give it to every member of council, because if you only give it to a couple, they may not be asking the questions that the other ones do. And I think it's a procedure manual that every member of council should have, and it should be readily available to the community as a public record anytime that they want it. And I think it's probably the most important thing that we're probably going to do, especially in this time, to make sure we get it right and that everybody on council's comfortable with it, the mayor's comfortable with it, and you get a final document that works.
Yeah, that's exactly what I want, because if I have a policy and procedure to work under, I know exactly what's expected. I want that as much as you guys do, trust me.
So I think the first step would be to get the Ohio Lexipol book and then print it out, distribute it to council, and then council can mark it up, and then they can have their meeting with Lexipol and say, why is this included? What does this apply to? Or is this really applicable to the village? Because council's not going to be as well versed in it as you are, and they may have some questions to ask. And by answering those questions, they'll be better able to communicate with the citizens why it is or isn't in there, or be able to refer them back to you or whomever.
And like I said, I can get a hold of the rep. I'll send her an email tomorrow and see when she would be available for a Zoom meeting. And we can do a Zoom meeting. This is when everybody's available and when is a good time for them, and when she's available.
Can you get them the booklet before the Zoom meeting?
I'll have to get a hold of her and see if they actually have a printed booklet for this. As far as I know, everything they have is online, which remember when I printed that out for you, it was 600-something pages.
But if 70% of that document's been updated,
Or give me a thumb drive, I could take it to Kinko's or
don't we wanna-
I can call her and ask her to send us an unaltered version.
Yeah, see, that's
of
what
an
I
Ohio
was just going
policy.
to ask, because the version that you're going to get on a printout is the butchered version. We need something unaltered, the way they will put it.
I will put that
And
on
you
the
can
first
give
thing
it
on my
to
agenda
Margret,
for
she can
tomorrow.
print those out at Kinko.
If you can get it and save it to a thumb drive, and I have extra thumb drives or sticks or whatever you want to call them,
Mhm.
then I can take it like to Staples or Kinko, somewhere like that, and get it
Okay.
printed. I could do like back to back, 2-page,
Oh.
double-sided.
I'll call her first thing in the morning and see if she can send me an unaltered version of it with no changes like it would have been when they first sent it to us. And I'll send everybody an email tomorrow letting you know what her answer was. You should have a response from me by noon.
It was 615 pages with 70% alterations.
So, what-
sorry, I shouldn't laugh.
yeah, so what we received a few months ago, we all got that.
Yeah,
That is the altered version that I could tell, the cut and paste. That's the document we're talking about, right?
No, we're talking about getting,
Getting a
A
new
new
unaltered
doc.
version, yeah.
Altered.
and then everybody from council would have the opportunity to review it, then participate in the Zoom meeting, and then be able to ask questions if you mark wherever it is in the book where you have a question. And that Zoom meeting may have to occur during the day or whatever, but, yeah.
That would be fine.
Yeah.
If, I remember, didn't they originally, like, if we gave them information about who we were as an entity, they would come up, they would adapt it to us? Isn't that,
They can adapt it to certain things for us, yes.
would it be worth it to maybe do an initial Zoom meeting to get the information they need to make their adaptation? So maybe they can cut it down, like, for example, we don't have a helicopter. I know one of the things says, in the event we have a helicopter,
We
maybe
don't have a
we,
K-9 unit.
yeah, maybe we can give
We
them
don't have a SWAT. team.
information about the village to make their version of what they would recommend for us, and then that's what we go through.
That sounds like a great idea, because I think anything short of 615 pages.
Is a good thing. No, I agree.
Yeah.
Have somebody send me a copy of what you've received.
I'll bring it to you tomorrow.
think you have it on
You
there.
have it.
Yeah, you
On there,
have
was I on there too, on the email?
Yeah, you were included. Right now, you may not have access because they were going in and changing everything, so they may have everybody changed. They haven't gotten back with me yet with new logons and passwords for all of you.
But price-wise, it'd probably be the best thing to do is to take it somewhere and have it printed.
Yeah.
That's the other thing, Don. If we're gonna be on Lexipol and it's gonna be online, everybody on council, the mayor, the village clerk,
Okay.
they have access to it.
That's,
Yeah.
well, I cured that I believe I cured that within my first week of
Yeah.
running the agency. I had you guys access to it, I just did it incorrectly.
Can we set it up where public would have access to read only? Because I think that would be the other thing, it's gotta
That
be a
takes it out
public
of my hands
document.
as far as public records.
I believe that's something we could ask the sales rep.
I think you have to have the public records. If they got the public records from the village, we'd be better off
Comes from.
than
Yeah, it comes
having
from
it
here,
be
not
on,
just getting on there and
Yeah.
willy-nilly in it themselves. Yeah.
because you never know what could happen to it.
Well, once we get it, we can also post it as PDF, certainly.
Well, there again, if you do that, then anybody can
Yeah.
go on and print it off what they want, so they don't have to make a public records request.
Well, they still can make the public records request. The only thing you don't want to do is you want to have the document here, and you don't want to give them access to the Lexipol site. So that, knowing what hackers do, you don't want it changed.
So like Dan said, we could have it in a PDF form, out there
Right.
for 'em.
Yeah.
And you've got the document that council passed here.
It's gotta be a paper trail.
That's okay, you can get the council. This is paradise, you can do whatever you want.
Under, hey, wait a minute. This one.
Wait.
All right, well, I think what you have is in the next 10 minutes anyway. Right, nice stuff. Is that all, Dan?
Isn't that enough?
Steve, we go to your committee. Did you have anything?
Okay, so Finance Committee met twice. We met both, and I emailed out the minutes to everybody, or at least the abridged version. We met on both June 5th and June 11th. So we'll go through the things that aren't attached to ordinances first, and then we'll swing back to the other fun things. Okay, so one of the things we kind of just assumed was going to come up in council was our maintenance supervisor is retiring, and we do need to post that position. So what the finance committee did is we looked at the budget, what can we afford? Basically, right now, we can afford the same hourly rate that we're currently paying, which is $19.04. And then we also have funds set aside to be able to provide benefits if required, based on the whole new ordinance that we passed last year. While we're on the subject, one of the questions that's come up, maybe Bob, you can help us out with this. Like when we advertise a position, do we have to advertise it in the paper, or as long as we publicly advertise it, we're okay?
That's fine, publicly advertised.
So like, I know
So
we're,
if I use Indeed.com and Facebook.
Right, you can use any of that.
Okay. I thought that's what he said at the last one, yeah. Okay.
cool. All right, so that answers that. I did reach out to TDG. This is the company that is currently taking care of the maintenance for Three Rivers. I also was working at LaSalle when they came in there, looking at them as a possible, or at least exploring the option, not saying this is what we do as council. But the plan is they're going to, assuming council's okay with this, they're going to look at our expenses for maintenance for the last 2 years and come up with well, then they actually want to come in and meet with us and ask questions, and then they would come up with a rough proposal of if they can help the village or not. One of the things that I think I want to point out in the conversation, for example, the maintenance lead, there will be a person on staff full-time in the village, and we have say over who it is. If they don't have them and we want to hire somebody else, they'll hire that person for us. So like I know some of the concerns have always been like, we don't want to lose that personal touch in the village. As far as they're concerned, basically they work for us, it's just TDG pays for them and pays their benefits. So where it saves us is if we did have to pay benefits, their company with 200 employees versus us with 4. They have their own electricians, maintenance, HVAC. So they have a lot of different services that they can provide. They use all their own equipment, so we don't have to maintain any of our equipment anymore. Like I know in the near future, we were going to release a new truck, a dump truck, a backhoe. Like maintenance has needed some overhauls for a while. So they take care of that. In fact, they'll actually buy our old stuff off of us if we want to get rid of it. Again, the goal is, this is just what can they do for us. In the meantime, honestly, if we want to hire our own person and start training them, and the nice thing is it is not a guaranteed contract with them, meaning that we can try them for a month, decide we don't like them, we're done. We do not sign a contract with the entity. They bill us monthly for the services they provide, and we have to approve it. Everything is done in work orders. So that they have it pretty organized. But again, this is more just an exploration phase. It's in the best interest of the village or not. So I just want to let everybody know that assuming council's okay with at least continuing on to see if we're willing to see what they can give us, or if we're not going to even mess with it and we don't want to change anything. But I don't want to bring somebody out and completely waste their time or waste our time giving them the information.
When will they be available? When can they at least talk to us?
Well, they would need to, poor Margret.
Oh, God.
They need to scrub our expenses first. And then they'll come out and meet with us whenever we want. Basically, he said, give me 3-4 days in a week and different times that he can come out, and they can do Zoom if they want to do that, or he'll come in. He is a West Sider actually. So he knows the village. They're actually really excited about trying to get into the village because they see some room. That's an area where they feel like they can grow. They're currently already working with Springfield Township. So they take care of grass cutting and garden, and the flowers and that kind of stuff for Springfield Township already. So it's really getting the reports and then giving that to them, and then probably sending out 3-4 days at work. I would definitely want Chip there because he knows what the department does more than anything else. And then obviously I think the mayor should be there, Margaret should be there. And it'd be nice if we could be there. But I gotta give them the reports first and then move forward if that's what council's interested in.
Well, I can try to have it to you, by Friday, but I'm not gonna promise. As soon as I can get everything to you electronically, I will.
Is council okay with me moving forward and setting up a time for them to come in and get to know us and then come back and give us a proposal?
I've never seen anything that isn't worth at least looking at.
Right.
It's no obligation to listen. I'd like to go ahead and make a motion if we pursue this a little farther and see what it looks like.
Do we need a motion for this?
Well, you've got one.
Well, I'll second.
A motion by Dan Dalton to look into the services, second by Pam. Any discussion? No discussion, we'll vote.
Lisa Stafford,
Yay.
Dan Dalton,
Yay.
Steve Dalton,
Yay.
Pam Jackson.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk police. So we've met, so the finance committee met to talk about a bunch of things repeatedly. One of which was 2 things. The mayor had requested being able to add the sergeant position, and we were looking at the financial ability to do that. Interim Chief McWhorter was nice enough to send me his estimated expenses for the rest of the fiscal year. We were able to find a little extra in his operational costs to be able to offer a sergeant's pay at $17.33. So this, again, this is not adding anything. This was, we were able to trim their operational costs to cover the $17.33. So a regular officer makes $17 an hour, so this would just be a 33-cent an hour bump. It's the best we can do without changing anything or other issues. And then the hope is to revisit that as we do next year's budget. While we're talking police department, the other thing that we looked at with Margaret's help, we have the community policing initiative, which part of the struggle is with that. Even though all the donations are coming in, it's still, the money still funnels through council, which means you need a line item to hold like when the money comes in. But we also needed a line item to be able to expense the funds, which we did not have anything in our appropriations to expense the funds. Okay, so what we've done, and actually, Bob, do you have the appropriations ordinance?
With me?
Yeah.
I can bring it tomorrow.
Okay. So, in the email, we made several changes to the appropriations. So what we did, if you look in the email, it shows our response from COVID-19, where we had originally approved one amount and we were adjusting it. This is based on no overtime, the changes already done in maintenance, and what we're not hiring a new chief this fiscal year. So all those changes are just reflections of what council's already decided to do. We're just adjusting the actual expenses to make sure that we don't actually spend money. And then, go ahead, Bob.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Are you talking about donations coming into the police department?
That was the next piece, yes.
Okay.
So where the community policing is getting donations coming in, which Margaret knows, is that 208, 280, the number?
That what we assigned it to?
Yeah.
It's this one.
We assigned it to,
That's the expenses. I was talking about the income.
I don't, it's not on this one, I don't think.
Is that within the general fund?
It would be
Yes.
in the general fund, Bob, and it would be a revenue, they're getting checks and cash,
You're right.
and it's to pay for these events they're doing.
And really, if you're getting money in, and I kind of hate to do this, but if you're getting money in for a specific purpose, it should go into a specific fund, so that if you get donations for a specific event, like the Christmas tree lights or whatever, the money would go into a specific fund and then would be expensed out of that fund, and that way it's tracked. Because if the money goes into the general fund, it's hard to track where that all the money that came in for that specific purpose was spent for that specific purpose. Whereas if you have a designated fund where the money used to go in, and you have your line item appropriations out of that fund, then you know what you're spending. And the second thing is, if people are contributing for that specific event, it's like a designated contribution versus the general fund where they could donate the money, and if you didn't use it, well, we'll just spend it on this, when the people gave you the money for a specific purpose. Do you know
I
what I
see
mean?
what you're saying, but we've got smacked before from auditors on that. And I think what I was trying to do was, it is in the general fund and it is specified with the fund, the object code, the code, and the class that it's going to, and it's specifically titled for that those receipts
For the
for the
receipts
revenue.
and the
And
disbursements.
then we've got one
Okay.
set up for the disbursements. And the reason we put it in, I said maybe put it there, was so we knew it was the police department and we knew what it was for. And that's why we was trying to amend the appropriations to show it. But if we have to do a special fund, then we have to have an ordinance to take and send down to the county auditor asking for a fund. We just can't set up.
The only thing
arbitrarily
that I'm
fund.
saying is when the state auditor changes from
Yep,
audit to audit,
okay.
I would make sure that I contacted someone in the state auditor's office,
I actually already reached out to Betsy Amon to make sure we were okay doing this.
right?
So I actually called her a couple days ago to make sure that how we have it set up. And she said that that was fine, as long as she put it, as long as we can explain it. So basically, the way it's set up, there's one code where the money specifically goes into. Then on the expenditure side, there is one line item that all those expenses come out of.
And
And it's not one that's actually used in the police department, which is actually why we had to amend appropriations, because currently we can't spend out of the fund, because there's nothing appropriated there. So we do have it, one line item in, one code to go in, and one unique code to go out. So the money sits in our big checking account in the general fund, but it's expenditures, that way we can actually keep track
Tied to
of.
that line item.
Yeah,
Right. Did she send you an email?
she did not. We just talked over the phone. I wanted to make sure that how we had set it up wasn't gonna cause problems for us.
I'd send her an email back and copy the village clerk, just to make sure I was
So that
covered
was a
on it.
paper trail.
She is on, she emailed me earlier today. She may answer email, but right now she's on leave for a little bit, something come up. But you can email her and copy me on it, or I will email her and copy you on it.
Okay.
Because my God, I don't want anybody to think that Margret is doing something wrong.
Okay, but so we don't have the ordinance.
Everybody tries to do everything, right, Margaret?
I know, I just get tired of it, Bob.
So we don't have the
okay.
we don't have the
You're all right.
appropriation adjustments for tonight.
I'll bring it over.
Okay. So then that does bring an issue about approving police expenses tonight. Because the funds are there, but we don't have a place to expend them from.
For,
So like, I'm guessing it's a $600 deposit, I think is the number I heard for.
That's the one that's most immediately
Yes.
needed for the fireworks.
So the struggle is, we have to be able to take that out of somewhere, to be able to approve it.
And that's why they did those line codes.
Right?
is it on
And I
your, is it
understand
on your
that, right?
computer,
I've
Margaret?
got it set up in
Put it on your
UAN.
computer, I'll go up and get it. I'll bring one down. You have
My
to pass,
computer's up.
you have to pass it on 3 different days.
Well, we're posted for tomorrow night, we're posted for Wednesday
Okay, I'll go
night.
up and do it.
But my computer is up, Bob, and the main door is
Is the
unlocked.
email up?
Huh?
The email up?
Yeah, the email's up
Okay.
where you sent them to me. You may have to touch it, or everything
Okay.
else so it comes up.
Okay.
Do we want to take a,
No, you don't have to take a break. You can continue on. And I'll go up there and I'll review it and go with that
or you
again.
can do the reports
Yeah,
for
that's-
Stephen, then if they want to leave.
Not for this.
I mean,
The other things that we have to go over, we meant to talk about the ODNR grant to finish out the parks and playground setup over there. Clerk was super awesome and went through and found all the expenditures for the entire grant to date, so we know where we're at. Margaret, do you mind walking us through this real quick?
Oh, no. Mine's gonna be a little bit different from Steve's, because you did yours at the bottom.
Yeah, I did amend the line down at the bottom.
We actually applied in 2013 and received a $100,000 grant with the Ohio Department of Natural Resources for the boat ramp / mixed land project that was gonna go out on 50 across the street from the plant. Now, when I say we got the grant, I mean that the money was in Columbus. There was nothing deposited into our bank account. 2014, we did an advance and received $10,000 from Columbus, or from that office. And that was carried over to 2015. In 2015, we expended $3,000, and that was to her, HER, who's a realtor who looked at all the property in the boat ramp area behind the church on Main Street, 113, 115, behind, that area, going west on Main Street. I think they went up as far as maybe 81 Main Street, because there was a possibility council was going to have to buy those lots down there to make this work. So we carried over $7,000. And then in 2016, for some reason, wrong coded, Hamilton County Stormwater was deposited into this account, and it shouldn't have been. So that brought our cash balance up to $13,500, which carried over. And there was actually $250 expended out of the account, which took the cash balance down to $13,250. Then in 2017, there was no charges. So again, we're still carrying that large amount of $13,250. Then in 2018, we did have CD consultants over there, and they did work periodically over there looking at things for $8,959.62, which brought us down to a balance of $4,390.38. So if you take the grant was the $100,000, we got the first advance was the $10,000, and then we got a second grant. I didn't put that in there. It should have been for 2019. We got another advancement for the $25,000, which we did use. We did expend it, but I had to add village money to it. So we ended up with, in my estimates, like a paper amount up there would be $65,000. And then if we take and pay back, pull back the $6,500 that's needs to be transferred out of there. I show that we would have the grant, at the end of the grant, it would be something like $58,500. But then if you take all the expenditures for all those years of $37,063.11 and put it back in the general fund, I think that leaves us something like,
That's the $21,436.89.
but if anybody wants copies of all that paperwork, I'll make you copies tomorrow. You can go through it, you can nitpick it, you can tear it apart, whatever you want, but it's there and that's what it is.
The only question I have, Margaret, is on the 37,000 expenditures, that other 3,000 and 8,900 is not in that bulk right there. That's total different expenditures, right?
Steve has a different.
No, the only thing I changed, Margaret, was I just added the line at the bottom. It's the same exact.
Oh, okay, because I don't have that in front of me. But,
So your total expenditures, that's after the first expenditures in 2016, 2015, and 2018, right? That's
well, there was expenditures in 2019 that aren't listed there, and I don't know if I got stopped doing this report or what, but
okay.
I'll go back through and clean it up.
Just because it says total expenditures there,
Yeah.
I wanted to make sure we weren't counting those expenditures twice.
Right.
Is all I'm saying.
I'll go back through it and make sure.
Okay. Just to make sure that, we're all on the same page there. We all.
But I think that the most important thing that I need everybody to understand is we actually did not get $100,000
No.
put in our bank account. We only got when we asked for money, and then monies were carried because nothing would happen. And we would carry it over, at different times. And then 2019 is probably when we did the most over there, and I have submitted to the Ohio Department of Natural Resources. I have submitted invoices for the village to get reimbursed for what was taken out of the general fund.
Right.
And when it was appropriated in the general fund, it was taken out of like the special events or community environmental.
Okay.
But I know a lot of them think there's like 68 or 65 or 68,000, but there would be, but are you gonna pay back the general fund from what you used, or?
That money should be returned to the general fund,
Yes,
was the
it should.
idea.
Because general fund is for our operations.
Now,
Well, there was no money, in that fund.
Right.
So the
I
general fund is-
understand why it was used
Somebody
that
had
way.
to suck it up and,
Right, I understand why it was used that way, I'm just saying, I agree that, yes, the general fund should be paid back, because we shouldn't have to use our operations for something that's not part of operations.
well, it was part of operations because it was line items budgeted for over there, you know. But what I'm saying is that because we didn't have like cash in hand, so it was
Right.
paid out of the general fund.
Right.
so, correct me if I'm wrong here, we were given a grant, but we had to spend the money first in order to be reimbursed for it. Therefore, the money did in fact come out of the general fund and needs to be returned to the
Yes, it
general
does.
fund.
Yes,
it
and
does.
that
It's not an
happens.
additional amount of money once we get it back to add to the park or whatever fund.
No.
That
And
money goes back
happens-
in.
That happens a lot when we're told we get grants. We get grants, but it doesn't mean we always get the money
Right.
sent to us.
Doesn't mean
A
it's
lot of
upfront.
times we have to use our money, and in some cases, council didn't appropriate for specifically,
Mhm.
you know,
Right.
other things. So, there again,
So is this is this money that we can expend and be reimbursed for? This last line here, $21,000 or whatever?
Yes, that would be what would be remaining downtown that we could be reimbursed for.
Okay, so we can spend another $21,000 to get reimbursed, but anything over that is coming out of our
Yeah.
you
proverbial pocket.
got, where are we taking the 21,000?
Well, hold on.
Well, no,
one
I'm not
second.
going that far. I'm just saying that's, if we choose to do so, that's all that's left available for the grant. Okay, that we can get the money back on.
So what the finance committee had talked about is, and although it's not the committee that needs to hear this isn't present at the moment in time, but the idea was, we want to be done and close out this grant. In fact, we have to do it by December because we've already extended it, Lord knows how many years. And most of the projects, at least the first phase, is almost there. So what our goal was for the Parks Committee to come back our next council meeting with quotes and what they want to spend the 21,000 on. And then over that month while they're getting all their quotes and things itemized, the Finance Committee would try to do some research and come up with the cash to be able to back the final process. So our hope was when we came back in July, July, we, council would be able, finance could say we have the cash set aside to be able to back it. The parks program would have everything they need and council could approve it and we could be done. That was our plan.
Well, Chip may have some insight on the next phase of expenditures, I think.
Yeah,
Because that's-
21,000 is not gonna,
Yes, I-
that's not gonna give us a blacktop driveway. It's, might get a little bit more trail in,
But it should put the
unless you do it
border,
in-house.
the border and the,
Oh, that's only about $4,000.
yeah. I
Yeah,
didn't
border,
realize
the
that much.
mulch.
And the mulch.
that's only, don't get the playground done, but that doesn't leave much
And then the next
for
phase
the
was,
rest of it.
you said was to do the
The
Did they
walking
talk
path.
about putting any lighting down there? 'Cause it's.
Oh, the lighting?
Yeah, I
um,
mean, is that something we can make?
I'm working with
happen?
Duke right now on that, and I met with our representative from Duke, and he's been working out a design for our park, and he recommended to go aerial with the lighting down the driveway, and that would set maybe 2 poles, and then another pole more towards the playground and that back area. So you can put a light on each pole. So if you went underground, it would be very much more expensive. So I don't know how they're gonna do that. He sent me an email today that his design work is done. He wanted to know if he could send it over to lighting, because lighting has to do it now. So I told him, just go ahead, just keep moving on with it so we know what we're gonna get into. So, you know, you gotta be able to set it up for a future shelter, whatever, a future restroom. You gotta be able to pull that into it. I gave him all the plans. He's got what he needed. But that's where we're at on that, on lighting. And Duke would probably, I don't know if they're gonna do this or not. They may just wind up, you know, putting it on like our tax bill. Possibly, I don't know. I can't say for sure. But they may do that, kind of like our lighting out in, you know, out the road.
Everywhere.
That might be the best way to go.
Just include it in what we pay for the rest of the lights
Right.
every other month.
Like the street lights, the traffic lights.
I mean,
So
I'm
just put
hoping
it all-
that's
Okay.
what they'll do. But right now, we just gotta get all the nuts and bolts put together, and then we can find out what it's gonna cost. What our cost, you know, we may not even need an electrician to come in. Duke may do the lights for us. We would need an electrician to come in at a later date to run the wiring over to the shelter, to light it up, put plugs in, you know, whatever else we do over there.
So we can actually kind of phase it to each step
Right,
without having this big lump bill. Okay.
right. And he thinks we can just put single phase over there. He said that'd be better. Not 3 phase, we don't
I
need
don't think we're
that.
gonna run
It's not gonna be
anything that
enough.
big.
Please.
I said, I don't think we'd be running anything that big. I can't foresee anything like that.
Right. So, but that's where we're at on it. I was gonna forward that, you know, before I leave, make sure you guys have that information from Chris Stetter. He's the one working on it.
Now, the other thing on the project, we did or at least the finance committee, when we were going through and doing appropriations and things, we did allocate or set aside enough initial capital outlay to put in the mulch and the border. So we do have the funds set aside to be able to do that, and we can approve that tonight if we have everything ready to go.
That's out of the regular operations.
Yes, and that was out of, so if everybody's curious, that's coming out of the 1,715, 500, 10, 12. Basically, it's the capital outlay for legislative activities.
But it can at least get done.
Yes, so we
Mulch
have,
and that, yes.
So we can have the playground
Yes.
ready to go.
Well, I'd like to make the motion that we move forward.
I'll second
At least
that
much
motion.
done.
Yeah, so we can get that way you've got it there and you can get that stuff finished.
We have a motion by Pam, second by Lisa. Is there any discussion? Any other questions? No discussion, we'll move.
Lisa Stafford,
Yay.
Dan Dalton,
Yay.
Steve Dalton,
yeah,
Pam Jackson.
Yeah.
I'm
Are you
done.
good right now?
I'm sorry, we met twice, it wasn't, you were at both of them.
Yeah, it's kind of like trying to, what he's saying, we covered both of them, I'm going crazy here. Trying to mark off what,
Sorry,
We're the busiest committee ever.
you're done?
I'm done.
All right. So, I don't know if it's Bob's on here. Did he bring the laws and contracts? I did finally send the policy procedure manual out to everyone, hopefully to review so we can get this behind us. I don't know if Bob brought that with him. He did bring
That
it.
wasn't one that he
No.
sent me. The only ones he sent me had to do with personnel and the
Yeah.
CARES Act commissioners are
Right.
asking each community to adopt so we can apply for money
Yes,
through the
Aid and
federal.
Economic Security Act for the federal, state,
Yeah.
local levels.
That, and then along with that, I received an email from the state auditor that they have special account codes and that they're giving everybody for UAN systems and stuff like that, so it all ties together.
Okay.
Well, I would like to make a motion that we get Bob to draw it up and maybe bring it tomorrow or whenever we're having these
Which
meetings.
one?
For the policy procedure manual.
That's not
Oh,
the police
that's-
policy
yeah,
procedure.
that's-
it's
Not the
separate.
police, just the
Yeah,
regular
you're
one.
talking about the regular village one.
Can we do the ordinances in
Well-
2 nights? Can we do it in 2?
Well, you won't have a third reading tonight. I mean,
Yeah,
you have the
you
first one
actually
tonight.
could, yes, you can, but you have to wait till tomorrow, and that's only if council approves second and third meeting. You can do second, third.
Well, we've had it before where something's come up, we read it one night and then the next night we was told that we could pass it by second and third motion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's what he was asking.
Yeah, that's all I was asking.
Yeah, but, because I think, doesn't it depend on how many members we have?
You have, to declare it an emergency, you have to have 5 out of the 6.
And we probably
That's
won't.
what forces us to have
3 readings.
3 readings.
Yeah, so. I'll make that motion that we ask Bob to bring that tomorrow.
I'll second.
Adopting
The
the updated,
updated village, what is it, policy procedure manual. I think that's what it's titled.
Well, we're waiting for Bob to come back and we go out to the,
well,
And then I have a few more, but go ahead.
I mean,
Let's
is
do
it,
both.
or is it something that you need him for, or if you're gonna keep going, go
No,
ahead.
no,
you're in the
because we
middle.
might need to ask
She
him.
made a motion, so you
She
waiting.
seconded, I
seconded.
Seconded, so, I was gonna say,
Let me
I'm
get
in
my
the middle of
notes
Just so
something
he can,
here.
bring
Yeah,
it
that's for
tomorrow.
the, okay, that's for him to bring the ordinance, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Motion by Pam, second by Lisa, any discussion? No discussion, we'll vote.
Lisa Stafford,
Yay.
Dan Dalton,
Yay.
Steve Dalton,
Yeah,
Pam Jackson.
Yeah, and of course, that's without police changes. We know that.
Right, that's just a regular one.
But their employees still go by
Right.
that.
Yeah, but this
Yeah,
is
they have
not,
the
this is
employment
not
thing.
that manual.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
The police policy and procedure, as we originally had it and envisioned it, was stuff outside of the normal sphere of employment that only concerned the police.
Right, and that should have, because it doesn't sound like you brought
Sorry.
it, the other
No,
piece of
it's
that was about the sergeant position to be in that, or part of
He
that.
has all that.
He does.
He brought all that.
Yeah, that's
He
here.
just didn't
Okay,
bring
I
the
just want to
other
make sure we
things.
ask him that when he does brings it tomorrow, that is, it might have to be separate, but I want to make sure it's changed and
Oh, gotcha.
that's what I'm looking at, so it don't have to be revised again. You want to go on?
You sure you don't want to revise it
Well-
one more time?
I just figured until he gets back, because he's not here to do any of that at the moment.
Yeah, go ahead. I'll put the line where I stopped.
Our fire chief, Steve Over.
Huh? What?
Taking care of.
Wake up,
it.
Steve.
He was busy today.
He was playing Candy Crush over there.
Okay,
Pressing some.
recap of May. We had 2 fire company details. We had a fire alarm at the Route 50 Saloon, malfunction on his alarm, and then we
I
had
like
an
that Rock 50.
Rock 50, sorry. My scribbling, I can't even read my own writing anymore.
Rock 50,
Then we had an auto accident at Main and 2nd Street. Involving a FedEx truck again.
Seriously?
same driver.
Same driver.
Same driver, same FedEx truck.
You forgot about the hill there, the little,
And then,
I saw that.
Can we have him banned from the
he
village?
got
or-
fired.
Did we?
And then we had 11 EMS details. And one of the things that noticeable this in May was we had 2 overdoses.
Oh,
So, and I don't know which, if that's heroin or just some other overdoses, but I do know, and not necessarily here in the village, but heroin's starting to make its climb back again in the area. Actually, you may have even seen, I think it was last week, the county coroner was on,
Yeah.
because they had 21 overdose deaths or within the last couple weeks or whatever,
they
so.
talked about a new version or something?
Yeah, they just keep adding stuff to it, so.
Is it-
So that might be, something that's on the rise.
And that's all I have at this point,
Thank you.
unless anybody has questions.
Yeah. Anybody have a question?
I was checking my emails, is what I was checking. I figured I might as well get some work done.
Okay, we'll just go ahead and go to supervisor. Supervisor Chip, did you have anything, Chip?
Yeah, the garage doors over there at the old firehouse, I don't know if you guys seen it when you drive by it. There's a gap underneath the door, the bottom's falling apart. We tabled it the last time whatever, not the last time, but the time before that. I gotta do something with it. So I had a price to replace the bottom panel. It's made out of wood. It's a different kind, it's an old door, and it's gonna cost like $780-something just to replace the bottom panel. To have them come out and do that, which is pretty high, but you can replace the whole door, for a couple thousand. I wanted to do both sides, because the other side's rotting away too. Right now, critters can go ahead and just climb on in if they want.
So what was the total, I'm sorry.
It was like 4,000, I don't have it in front of me, but it was.
And that was for one door?
That was for both
That was
of
for
them.
both, that was the one you brought us.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta do
That
the one
one back.
side. If you don't, you're just gonna have to live with the critters getting in.
Got your appropriations on there? Go to 2901, see what you got, how it's budgeted.
That's done, Margaret.
Well, I just know that there's nothing in there for that. It's set up for utilities, and the rest of it is for the contractual services, because that's where the money is really supposed to go, is for the contractual services. We never thought about having something set up where we would have money to use for the upkeep of that building.
Well, the old
Normally that
furnace
building, we use the fire and EMS fund normally on that building.
Well, that's but what I'm saying is, there's nothing appropriated for any maintenance other than utilities and contractual services with Miami Township. There's not a line item in there for any type of maintenance issues for that building in the fire fund.
What'd you say it was, 2901?
2901.
You have $1,000 in other. You have this line item right here.
Okay.
We have an unencumbered balance, and we didn't budget anything for it. Or wait, we did. We budgeted.
See,
That's all used up.
so, like I said, you have to look at it, if you intend to do it. Or you maybe can approach the water board, since they parked their truck down there, and ask them if they can help somehow.
Share.
They do one door, we do the other.
Yeah, that's
We
be
could,
fair.
we could ask
They
them
use
about
one
that.
door.
When's the next time they meet though? Because
Well,
we do have the big opening. this
they're not
month.
gonna meet till the 20th of July. Because they changed their meeting from the 1st of July because of the holiday to the 20th.
It's my birthday, I can't meet on my birthday. I'll have to be at that meeting.
If it has to wait till then, it has to wait. I'm just saying it's gotta be done.
Or,
In the furnace, and
or
there's
if
not
you
a
have
good
it in
shape
a council
either.
line item, you can take it out of council line item. Just gotta say what you did it.
I know. We do, so, we could,
Steve
We-
Wallet.
we could, no,
And then,
we could do this,
and then.
we do have the 780. We could do the 780 out of the same line item where we just appropriated, for the mulch and border. I left $6,000 in that account in the appropriations. So there is enough in there that it could cover it.
Cover the garage doors or the?
Just the
Just
replacement of the
Replace fixing that bottom of that one door.
Approve the mulch and stuff, so.
But there's money left.
I left money on top of that in case.
Oh, plus that, so you
Yeah.
could do the garage doors and get the mulch done. as
Just
well.
repair.
Yeah, not the doors, just repair the
Just
door.
repairs, just repair the one
Is
panel.
the replace?
Replaces.
How much
I think you're wiser to
$2,000
replace the whole door because you're getting
$2,000, that's why
rot
I'm asking
in
him.
different spots. I'm saying to make it okay, you can fix the bottom one. We
Okay.
get by several more years. But, you're kind of throwing away money because you got 780 here for one panel and the rest are
like I said,
Roddy,
get a hold of.
That's why I'm asking him, could
you
you
know,
please
and
stop
then
interrupting?
2,000 for a whole
Thank
new
you.
door. So, you do whatever you want.
No, I get what you're saying, Chip, it's the,
And then, and I'm gonna throw this at you, the furnace in there is, how old's the building? That's how old the furnace is.
90 years old.
That's how old the furnace is. So, we're gonna have to take a plunge on that sooner or later. But I'm just throwing that building's gonna need some work.
at
some point in time.
You're talking probably alone.
I don't know, when did they build that building?
I think that we should approach the water board. If they did one and we did one, I feel that would be fair.
So you're talking until July before we actually had an answer on whether or not we could repair it.
It's not even a guarantee.
Yeah. I think they're usually pretty cooperative with us, sharing on everything we do.
Is there a way
We've
we
never
can
had a
kind of
problem
Band-Aid it
saying
for a month? Well, probably realistically 2 months by the time we give you the approval.
It'll make it, I mean, if we gotta kick a couple animals out, we'll do that. You know, I mean,
Trying to avoid the kicking animals out. Can we like screw a piece of plywood down at the bottom?
we could probably do something like that to help keep them out.
Do you have these, those quotes, or who could do that, or?
Didn't you give them to us?
I may have,
To replace the
yeah.
whole
That's
door?
what I was looking for.
I thought
Those
it was
replacements of
I'm
old
sure I
door,
have.
yeah.
But I got the quotes. I got it in an email.
I'm gonna approach the water board. How does that work? I don't know how it works. when we-
I'm on the water sewer, I'm the head of the water sewer committee, am I the one that needs to do that?
You could take it to that committee, yeah.
Okay.
Because you've been going to have you been going to the meetings too?
I have not, I didn't realize they were having a meeting last week and I didn't get to go to it, so. And I know they hadn't had them for a while.
Right, you'll catch
And I
up.
just,
Thank you.
I wasn't caught up because I didn't know they were having that one. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
So Lisa, did you say you were gonna approach the water board?
Yeah, I can talk to the water board about that.
And then I put that on the finance committee's list of things to look at, so we can get the full 2,000.
That's
Can
all.
you resend that quote to my email, Chip? That way I can,
I'll just forward it to everybody. I'm pretty
Okay.
sure I got it in email.
that way I'll have that to include in my email when I talk to Bernard and Jason and,
All right.
okay.
Thank you, Bob.
No problem.
Did you have anything else, Chip?
No.
All right, thank you. Did you guys want to go now that Bob's back? We'll go back and where we left off.
The ordinance.
Was that for, that's what the appropriations is what you was looking for next?
Yeah, so this is the,
For that line item?
yeah, so this has the account code, the account description, and the new appropriations. I'll walk everybody through it real quick, just so it's a little bit less puzzling. So first line item where it says other personnel services police, and changing that to 159,000 some change. Okay, that is basically, we said we were not replacing the chief this fiscal year. So that amount was adjusted to reflect that. It was previously much bigger than that, 183,000 previously. Medical
Hospitalization.
Thank you. That was the money set aside to cover the insurance for the police chief. Again, since we are not rehiring a police chief this fiscal year, we zeroed out that amount. Other personnel services for maintenance, doing the switch of not hiring the maintenance worker one position, or what is it called now? the supervisor and what's the, didn't we change it in policy and procedures?
No?
Not yet.
Okay, so anyway, going from not hiring the second full-time position and then running the 2 part-time people for the rest of the fiscal year, that is where that new number came from. Okay, medical hospitalization, it was originally double that amount. So we left money in there to be able to cover benefits for somebody new coming in to replace the maintenance supervisor lead position. But then we had budgeted an extra person. Again, we're not hiring that person this fiscal year, so we're taking those funds out. Okay, and then you have medical hospitalization for administrative, mayor and administrative assistant. Okay, the $500 that's left in there is to cover the life insurance policy on Aaron. Aaron currently is not using village insurance this year. Okay, capital outlays. This was the one we were just talking about for the mulch, the border, and possibly part of the garage door. Okay, it was originally $27,000. That was carried over because we had not closed out the Muddy Creek project at the time. We have since closed out the Muddy Creek project, so we can reduce those funds. And then we have the 2 new line items for our police and community relations. So you have the first one, which is for the donations to be deposited, and then the second one is for the donations to be distributed. So maybe you guys didn't care that much, but I wanted you to be clear what we were changing and why. I would like to point out that the way we are planning on doing the police community relations is monitoring the money that the donations that come in. The expenditures do not exceed the donations coming in. So they gave us an estimate of, they think they're gonna bring in 20,000. So they think they're gonna be able to expend 20,000, but council will, once we get this approved, get reports of the money that's come in, the money that's been expended, to make sure that the expenses never exceed what the donations are coming in. That way the village is not taking on additional burdens. Please. I'm sorry. I make a motion that we accept the ordinance. Or wait, is that how I do this? It's on,
It's on the yellow thing, you want me to do it?
well, we can't do an
No, it's
emergency.
not an emergency.
Gotta have it for an emergency.
That's how we
Okay.
should do things.
I make a motion for the first reading.
Always wanted that.
Can I say it by title only?
Great.
First reading, title only. Somebody,
I'll second.
Motion by Steve, second by Pam. Is there any other discussion? No
Just
discussion,
one.
we'll vote.
One thing real quick,
Or
but
the-
I'm sorry, that'll come up later, forget it.
First reading an ordinance to make supplemental appropriations or adjustments for the current expenses and other expenditures of the Village of Addyston, Ohio during the calendar year ending December 31st, 2020.
We didn't vote to read that
Oh, you did?
yet. No.
Well, read it.
So
We didn't vote.
I was just waiting.
Still on count one.
She usually repeats it, so. All right, so.
We're just checking on you.
Okay, and if there's no more discussion, we'll vote, actually vote on that reading first.
Lisa Stafford,
Yay.
Dan Dalton,
Yay.
Steve Dalton,
yeah,
Pam Jackson.
Yay.
First reading an ordinance to make supplemental appropriations or adjustments for the current expenses and other expenditures of the Village of Addyston during the calendar year ending December 31st, 2020. She'll give you a new one tomorrow with the typos corrected.
do we have to make a motion for the reading tomorrow?
Tomorrow.
Do we have to make a motion to do that?
Don't we have to have,
Well, we have to have a motion, I think, to.
don't we have to have a motion to have a meeting, special meeting tomorrow and
Yeah.
Wednesday?
Correct.
We gotta read them at separate times?
Correct.
So I make a motion, we have a meeting tomorrow to read this again,
What time,
And Wednesday.
and Wednesday.
what time are we done?
Does anybody have any problems with 6?
6 is
As
great for
opposed to
me.
Can you
7?
make it at 6, Bob?
Okay.
6 works for me.
We're all good.
Okay, motion to have a meeting. Was there a second on the floor?
Second.
Okay. Motion to have a meeting on Tuesday and Wednesday by Lisa, second by Steve. Any discussion? No discussion, we'll vote.
Lisa Stafford,
Yay.
Dan Dalton,
Yay.
Steve Dalton,
Yay.
Pam Jackson.
Yeah.
Then I have an ordinance, a resolution approving the participation of the Village of Addyston in the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act for the federal, state, and local levels of government.
So we get our funds.
Make a motion, we accept the resolution.
One second.
Motion by Steve, second by Pam, first reading. Any discussion? No discussion? We'll vote.
Lisa Stafford,
Yay.
Dan Dalton,
Yay.
Steve Dalton,
Yay.
Pam Jackson.
Yeah.
Are we passing this as an emergency?
No, it's a first reading.
Oh.
I said first
Re-
reading.
A resolution approving the participation of the Village of Addyston in the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act for the federal, state, and local levels of government.
And I didn't pass those out to anybody, Bob,
What?
The resolutions.
those copies.
Oh, you did?
I didn't.
No.
I just laid them all over there for
I'll
you.
pass that.
I was gonna walk all the way around.
Did you get it?
Nice.
To give that one.
Do we need to make a motion that we're also going to read this on
Tuesday and
Tuesday
Wednesday.
and Wednesday? Or because we did it once, we're good?
You've already made
You've already made the
motion to have the meeting, and that's
Okay.
what it'll say, it says for the purpose of passing possible legislation.
Okay, I just didn't know how specific I had to do this one.
Margaret.
I think she had an extra one. Did you have an extra one or no?
Oh, somebody didn't get one?
Just go.
Oh, there it is. That's the one I talked about when you was gone.
Is this a sergeant?
Yeah.
It's okay, Mom, I just look at your stuff.
You can write it, it says staff sergeant and everyone's.
This one's on the police sergeant.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it says staff
The
sergeant.
appropriations.
There should be another one, Bob, for the appointment of,
Actually, just put Margret in for this off.
She's gonna-
I have an ordinance establishing the position of sergeant within the Village of Addyston Police Department.
Bob, in the second paragraph, it still says staff
That
sergeant.
should be
Yeah.
crossed
well,
out.
he'll correct it, he'll send it to me.
Make a motion, we approve the ordinance?
Second?
Motion by Dan Dalton, second by Steve Dalton.
Yeah, the first
To have the
reading.
first reading, is that, okay.
Yeah.
Any discussions?
Can we say to have the first reading with the corrections, or do we have to say with the corrections?
That's correct.
Okay. All right, it's all good then, no discussion.
All right, no discussion, we'll vote.
Lisa Stafford,
Yay.
Dan Dalton,
Yay.
Steve Dalton,
Yay.
Pam Jackson.
Yeah.
An ordinance establishing the position of sergeant with the Village of Addyston Police Department. That is it, because we can't appoint anybody because the
Well, yeah,
position's
that
not
one.
not there yet.
Bob, when you were out, we, on this in the policy procedure manual, we did vote that if you could bring the ordinance back for that tomorrow, if you draw an ordinance up.
I can.
Okay.
Do you have the policy and procedure
I
manual?
sent it to you. You should have it, I can send it again.
What did you send it under?
Oh,
When
your
did you-
village,
Oh, you sent it to the village one?
yeah.
Always,
It was, always don't send it there?
well, I send everything I want to him at Kelly,
Okay.
Yeah.
at
I
that
can
one.
always send it.
Because I checked,
All
because
right.
Margaret said something to me. I'm checking under P. Jackson,
Yeah,
and I thought, they said they sent it to me. I
because
said,
you got it, right?
Huh?
I sent it to
Yeah, you
you.
do,
Yeah, I know.
because I use my
Yeah.
Addyston one, but Bob may
But he
not
don't.
use the
Yeah.
Addyston
Okay.
one all the time,
"Send-
you know, so
Okay, I just wanted to make sure. All right.
Bob, you know, you can set up the
But
Addison ones
you
on
need to
before
explain
your
that
regular- Oh, really?
it's accepting the changes.
That's what I
Right.
do, all my accounts are forwarded into my Hotmail thing, including Addison. I'll call you tomorrow. No problem.
And Bob, it's to accept like the changes that were in red. You'll see
Okay.
it.
So do you want me to print the booklet out?
Probably, I don't think, we could probably do that.
Will they see
Because
it?
where there may be, I think there's probably gonna be a few more pages, we probably should hold off before we make that permanent. Yeah. But we're gonna go ahead and approve it because we need, there's things that could happen, we need to have it to be there.
But if you, I'll have to print out the policy and procedure booklet
That's
as
fine,
part of the ordinance.
that's fine, because everybody has it.
Do you want me to
Everybody's got a
print it with all the red out of it?
copy. Yes, yeah, we can do that.
Is there any more red you need to put in it before you print it?
No, I just wanted, well, now that the sergeant, we need just to make sure that's there. I
Okay.
believe it is, but I wanted to make
Well,
sure.
I'm looking at it now, so let me see if I can find it.
Because it may, it should be. Because that just came about the last couple days, so,
I'll have that to you.
okay. So back to me.
I think we're back to you at this point.
We got that one. Alright, so we did that one. Alright, we had a special events meeting, and of course, we discussed the police department's fundraising events, future events that's coming. And, we don't have anything in the, anywhere except for OVI about the detail pay. I believe that's how we're wording it. Is that right, Lisa?
That's what it's called. It's a detail.
Detail, yeah.
So we did discuss that, we were back and forth on the fence about this, Dan can add a little bit to this, but, so we need to come up with like a description of what detail pay is. We know that we need it for other events other than just the village, like our outside. If, someone's to hire our officers for an outside event, but we're gonna probably address that later. We just wanna really take care of what's happening here for the 4th of July to cover, a detail for the village. And I'm sure that we need an ordinance for that or a resolution. Since it's resolution, probably because it's gonna be temporary, do we need two separate ones for inside and outside events, I guess, is the way you wanna look at it. Because the only thing we have, to our knowledge, is one for OVI.
It's actually on an ordinance.
Right. And the rate of pay.
So it's gonna have to be an ordinance, correct?
That's what I would have it in.
That's what I thought too. Right?
Can I speak on this?
Yeah, sure.
I know that the previous chief had detail assignments because he used our services down at North Bend, and he paid the officers a rate of $30 and $20 for the cruiser. He charged them $50. But he did that on his own by memorandum or letter. It wasn't anything that council established as detail pay. And to quit being written up for paying people different salaries that aren't covered in an ordinance. It needs to specify what a detail is.
So, but the question is, say for instance, if you have a detail, we have part-time officers. So if you bring them into work and say, these days are available, we could use additional people on these days, that would be an hourly rate, okay? Normally when you get details, after they've worked their 40 hours, then they're working what's called off-duty details. and that July 4th may not necessarily be an off-duty detail, depending on how many officers you have, would be willing to come in and work.
Because we've got officers that's gonna get time and a half because they're scheduled to work their regular shifts. These would be, in my understanding, 6 additional officers?
We'll have the road patrol officer, and then 5 detail officers, and then myself. I am not gonna be paid that day. I'm volunteering my day to the village that day.
Okay, so it's 5 officers.
Okay, so the road officer is going to be paid at the rate of,
At their regular hour, at the time and a half.
Time and a half.
Time and a half.
Because it's a holiday, right?
the other officers, we need to establish a normal,
Anything, any detail that they would do outside of, because anything, the way I've always looked at it, the way I've always had it done with me, is if it's not a directed patrol or anything like that, these are always off-duty details. They still have police powers, they're still in uniform, they're still under our power and control, but they are working off-duty contractual rate at $30 an hour.
right? Thanks for phrasing it that way, that's great. But that was basically, our end of it was to figure out how much to pay per hour.
No,
Uh,
no.
Or,
Ours is a language.
well,
That was
language,
already talked about, the $30.
right.
That's the financial part of it.
The struggle is gonna, help me, sorry, I'm just hearing about this, so I'm trying to wrap my head around it. So just to make sure I understand, we have our normal officers that we plan for July 4th that do their normal job.
Yes.
But with the special event for the 4th of July, we want additional officers on duty.
Yes,
Okay,
and I've got that set at the minimum of 1 officer per 200 people.
okay. So I guess, first question is the Village of Addyston paying for these officers? Or, so like, for example, like, if it were special event, like, I think when, like, we had the event down at the VFW,
The rest of it?
yeah, they paid our officers.
Well, yeah, because that was their event.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
But
not.
even
But
still,
this
if they
is
pay
our
our officers, we still don't have anything showing what our detail rate is.
No, I know, I'm
And
not worried,
yeah.
I'm not worried about that. I'm more thinking,
Yeah.
I don't want to create, so like, okay, we do We Thrive. If, let's say we do a We Thrive event, and if we have an officer there, I have to pay $30 an hour, that we didn't budget for that. Like, that's my concern, like, if it's the Village of Addyston, shouldn't it be the Village of Addyston established pay rate? And, or, because I feel like when you get into special details, and it's the Village of Addyston, does that make sense? Like, can it be special details, and do we really want to pay special rates? Like, we have an officer on duty, We Thrive, and then is it fair to our regular officers on that day that are getting time and a half, they're actually gonna be making less than the special event
It's a
officer?
little bit less, what do we hear?
It's like $3.
It's
Yeah.
$25.50.
Yeah, it's not the end of the world, I'm throwing it
It's
out
up to
there.
you guys.
Well, and the other issue is those hours they want to do a volunteer, I think I'm seeing your question where, who pays for those hours? And Don, when you talked about it, didn't you say that you had people, that were going to make donations that would go to those, to cover those specific hours?
All of the donations coming in are going to pay for all the expenses, including the officers.
Yeah, that's one of the expenditures that's on the list,
Right.
is 6 detail officers.
Yeah, the thing with this is that we didn't appropriate anything for this event, so the police initiative, what are you called now? Community, whatever, I can't remember the title, but they're going to cover their own expenses. But we still need to set the policy or the rate or whatever. Right.
Right, all that we were doing was setting a rate.
Setting a
There are some
rate,
other
right.
questions, but that's kind of separate from what we were assigned to do, which was to set the rate.
Did you
And
get the
policy.
money in yet?
Well, that's
We've gotten actually quite a
what's
bit of
outside
money
of that.
so far.
That's what's outside of that. All we're doing is establishing what the rate of pay will be for
For
details.
just so we know it from here going forward.
Yeah, from here going forward.
Yeah, and the next question is, can we say that the village is not liable for, say this doesn't go over Fourth of July thing? It's a flop, heaven forbid, I don't think that's gonna happen, but if it should, that the village under no way is responsible for paying these officers, or any of those expenses, actually.
Who's running it?
Well,
See, that's been the
that's
whole
our
question.
issue.
That's, in other words, this is an Addyston event,
Yes,
although you may try and disassociate yourself from it.
but we can't, I know.
You are correct. So it's an Addyston event.
So we're liable.
And, right, you're liable because you're putting it on,
Right.
okay? So you're putting it on when Rosie's wants to get paid,
Right.
they're coming to the village to get paid. All these people are coming to the village to get paid. The officers are coming to the village to get paid because they're being paid out of that ordinance that you just had the first reading from. So when you're looking at it, and when you're looking at the officers, if the officers come in and work, they should get overtime for that day, if that's the way it's paid for July 4th. Don should get paid overtime. He shouldn't have to come in and work for free, okay? And so, but from the standpoint of a detail, we're not an independent business hiring them. They're our officers. We're saying, you know, we're having this event, we need officers, sign up. If you don't sign up, we'll sign you.
Okay, so then we can just say that we'll pay them at the overtime rate.
I mean-
If that's the way we choose, which would be a little less.
Right, because you're the employer and you're employing them. It's not like you're going down to North Bend, or
Right.
you're the VFW,
Yeah, they're
or
doing-
you're Ineos across the street.
Yeah, they're doing this for us within our
Right.
community.
If you call them in because of some emergency, you wouldn't pay them a detail rate.
No.
You pay them whatever their hourly rate is, plus whatever overtime they accumulated on that. You see what I'm saying?
Right. Okay, so what's council's pleasure? We want to go with the, pay them the overtime rate? I mean, that's less than the expense.
I don't think we have a choice about,
Yeah.
we have to pay them the overtime if they're working on a holiday.
It so happens this event's on a holiday. If it wasn't on a holiday, we'd have to pay them straight pay.
Right, but what you have to wrap your head around on this is that it is an Addyston event. And when the whole issue came up with the liquor permit, I told Margret, check with the insurance company and make sure we've got all this covered under our policy. That's what we want to make sure of. But it's not, the police may have started it, but council's gonna be the one that finishes it when it appropriates the money. That makes it an Addyston event.
We're contractually liable for everything
Right,
that's
which
involved
way-
there.
we assume
In other words,
that.
we're signing a contract with Rosie to provide the fireworks. Anything that has to do, I realize that you're getting stuff, food trucks and whatnot. We, as the council, are still liable for that. Somebody has to sign for the contract. And as soon as it's an official from the village of Addyston, guess what? It becomes our baby.
Not only do they have to sign the contract, but they have to get a purchase order for all of this from the village clerk.
And I believe all of this would have to be approved ahead of time anyway.
You are correct.
How much money did they brought,
What I have in my system, and this isn't the receipts that the treasurer has that she was going to deposit as of last Friday. But what I have actually got in my system credited to that account is $2,250.
What's in there that hasn't been deposited?
I'm sorry, what?
You said the treasurer didn't deposit?
They received a donation of $2,000 from the Rainbow Daycare down on Route 50. There is a $500 one from the Cleese Kiwanis. Those are the two that I believe she has to deposit, that I haven't got the receipt back to enter into my system.
So that would make 5,000.
And then there's $1,000 from Jason's electrical company.
And then there was two booth rentals for $100 cash from two different people that is scheduled to be deposited tomorrow. But I do have it set up and we are trying to keep track of it.
Do you know how the food trucks are working?
No, Bob, I
Do you have
don't
to-
have any information about that.
Does the village have to pay for the food trucks to be here or anything?
No, they do not.
No.
Does the village benefit from them, any profit off of what they do?
They're
It's
gonna pay.
$100 or 10% of the
They're-
total.
yes.
I thought that was a goal. Yeah, about 10%.
Guys, point of order here, can we go ahead and excuse Steve and Chip? They're really not a part of this.
Yeah.
It's
Or
like,
if you, unless you
Well,
wanna
they just
listen
ain't
and
part of
got
it.
nothing else to do and hang out with us.
well, if you wanna hang out.
No, I was
feel
just
free.
wondering because I didn't know if, you know, our employees are gonna have to come out and watch cans and do whatever. I guess they're not.
No, I think that was part of the deal, was that we weren't gonna try to have to drag them out.
The officers will take care of cleanup and everything. We'll just need to have access to your truck so we can use them.
You just need access to the garage.
Yeah, which I have. I just, no, we're gonna clean this up on our own.
Some of us are even volunteering to come.
5 officers, how many hours?
Steve, you can blink any pressure.
Do what?
So you know, I
I
try to bring them all at
know.
once, and 6 out of 5 officers, put them together for the duty
For
person.
the budget. And
You're not gonna bring them all in like at noon when it starts.
No, we won't have a need for that many at noon. I'm thinking to be at maximum capacity for officers around 4 PM on. So the first 4 hours, we won't need to have 5 detail officers.
That's what I like.
Because I'm thinking around between 5 and 6 is when it should start picking up, where more families will start showing up. And
Lisa explained that the reason the way she came up with that number was just so they could have some figures for a budget, correct?
How many hours, so how many hours are we talking on that day for officers? Not including our normal detail officers.
I
So,
think it's
Don't
scheduled
refer to
from,
detail
what,
officers,
11
you
or
only
from
have-
noon to midnight.
well,
noon to midnight, so that's 12 hours, but if you cut back, how many officers do you think you're gonna need during the day up till 4, 2?
As soon as I start getting a little bit better feedback from people coming in, depending on how this goes over with the response we're getting now, we may have to run the 5 officers the full 12 hours.
That should have been.
Because we are the only fireworks show in southwest Ohio on the 4th
Sorry
of
about
July.
that. That was
Really?
supposed to be packaged, I copied it.
Wow.
Everybody else is canceled.
Wow.
If not, I'll get that copy.
I think there's gonna be one in Hidden Valley.
Oh, Hidden Valley doing theirs.
Yes.
And all of you have to copy the letter though, correct?
Yeah.
Is that not stated on the letter
Let me see.
about vendors? Where you have the vendor sheet that they fill out, stating what they pay and the percentage?
That I didn't see.
That should have been in that packet also. Then I'll make copies.
No, what you gave me was you was trying to get it together up there. You were gonna come down and we had the list and, we had like out these 2 sheets.
And those 2 sheets, yeah, those 2 sheets have on it too, the percentage, like $100 for spotter, 10%, whatever is greater.
Bob, can I
I
ask
didn't
a
mark
question?
that one.
So when's this over, first of all? We're trying to figure hours.
I'm trying to figure out like, what, I've got the generator.
I'd like to see it cut off by 11,
11?
winding down by 11.
So he's saying, what, 5 to 11?
Council, can I ask Bob a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Bob, I have a question. So I had 2 individuals come in, or they collected money from 2 individuals to run food booths. And on here it says that after completion of the form submitted, here with the certificate of insurance and registration fee, and it says no partial payments. What if these individual people don't have insurance?
What's the form say?
That's what the form says. I want to do something and I get in trouble.
So
Well, I mean, if council's uncomfortable with everything, we'll send all donations back and put it to a straight up halt.
So like, for example, my concern is like, I just ran the numbers, so like, let's say it's, I think we did 5 to 11, 5 officers at time and a half. That's gonna be a grand total of $4,531. Because we also still have to pay on those people, the Medicare, unemployment insurance, all the other, they're still salaried employees. So all those other things we pay above and beyond their salary, their hourly pay, I've got a calculator that generates it all together.
Steve, that's what the detail thing is about. It's been my experience, and I think Don's also, when you're doing a detail thing like that, that does not include all the extraneous stuff that it would normally include, i.e. taxes, et cetera, et cetera. That's a straight out payment.
We can't, they're our employees, anything we pay them for, we have to.
But that money is not coming,
But it is.
it's coming through the
Well,
village,
because
but
it
it's not
has to
coming
go
from the
through our
village.
account.
Unfortunately.
Us.
Yeah, and unless they're paid by an exterior entity.
Yeah, now that was the thing I was gonna bring up. I've talked to the people in Cheviot before, and they, for instance, the Harvest Home Fair, that's paid directly by the Kiwanis to the officers. That money is not even touched by whoever. They are basically paying the security bill. Now, I don't know how we're gonna do that here, if somebody is going to dedicate some funds to that.
Is it possible that way, Bob? If an outside entity wanted to, even though it's hard to fit?
Well, that's how they did it with, all I know is that's, when I was talking to the the safety director up there, that's how they do it with Harvest Home.
Yeah, but who runs that?
Yeah, who runs
But
that?
it's done by the city.
I don't know.
So-
Harvest Home Fair is run by the Kiwanis.
See, that's the
And the
problem.
fair board.
It's an outside entity. That's where we're getting in trouble because it's our function.
So it's an outside entity that runs the Harvest Home Fair,
Yeah.
and the city just basically approves them to be there and they get those points and things, okay?
Yeah.
I actually think the Kiwanis rent the fairgrounds.
Okay.
For what it's worth, fireworks are 3,000, correct?
Yep.
Like lock, stock, barrel. And we know to bring in the detail based on what we just said was 4,531. So you're talking about a total cash outlay right now of 7,531. If we take away from that the deposits we already just talked about, right now the liability to the village of Addyston, not including liability insurance or anything else, just talking the contract and the staffing, is $1,681. Now, if that's the only liability we have to have, I gotta say, in the grand scheme of things, I feel comfortable that we can cover that. Like, things will work out. But I don't know, do we have to adjust our liability insurance for this? Does Rozzy come with their own insurance?
They'll send us a copy of their insurance.
What?
They haven't to pay
Yeah,
us.
Yeah, why-
Fireworks companies are required by law to have at least $1 million
Yeah.
before I can sign off on a permit.
Okay.
So the fireworks have to have their liability, and that's based upon a state permit. That has to be signed off by the fire.
The other thing is, Steve,
Yes.
the other thing is, since the fire chief's here, and you're having fireworks, I would find out if he's gotta have somebody down here.
We provide an inspector. That's not a cost to the village. There'd be an on-shift inspector that would be here to verify the permits.
Well, that verifies the permits. What about having somebody or equipment down here should there be?
Well, we'll probably do that as a PR event, but the inspector has to be here from the time of fireworks
Okay.
arrives on scene until they're shot. It is required by law.
Can I ask Bob a question? Bob, I want to ask a question. So somewhere along the line, they was talking about outside entities, you know, like paying for the officers and that. So if this money comes in, and I'm gonna, you know, I would assume that it's going to be like their regular salary for the village. I'm not really allowed to pay on the accounting side and not take anything out of it.
What do you mean?
Well, like they would say, you know, that the money come in and they don't want anything taken out of it.
Like
any of the
PERS and
withholdings
that?
and all that.
It's all gotta come out.
Okay, I just want to
That's
make.
what Steve just said.
It's,
Yeah.
well, the problem is it's happened in the past that way. And
Well,
it shouldn't have.
It can happen that way if it's a true detail,
Right.
because that's paid by an outside entity to the officer.
I guess we're getting confused maybe a little bit with the OVI. They,
The ODI is a governmental
right,
function.
and then when they did the thing down North Bend,
But that was
that was a,
the OVI is on the ordinance, and I'm fine with that because I have something to pay from. My thing is that when the auditors come in, if there's a change in somebody's salary, they want to know why I paid them that rate. And I have to have documentation supporting it. And like this next audit will probably get seen because even though the former chief had something with them, I don't think he actually come to you first and said, can we do this? You learned after the fact because people was raising questions why our officers were down on the highway.
right. So back to this event. I mean, I believe, I'm not gonna speak for everybody, but I think we're up for it to go forward with this. It's just what we need to protect the villages, basically. So we don't need to establish, we need a detail pay because, for later, a detailed caption of some sort, but we don't need it for this event. Because we're gonna pay them at holiday pay, because they're working on a holiday.
They're your employees and you're sponsoring the event.
So we're just authorizing them for the amount of time that they're requesting for this event, basically.
Which right now we have is total of 30 hours. Is that
30 hours.
total of 30, so in terms of total hours, total man hours for the event is 30 hours, is what we just kind of figured out if you had 5 officers from 5 to 11. But you still gotta clean up. I'm assuming that they're gonna work past.
We're still
11.
gonna need some officers here between noon and 4, it's not as many.
Yeah. It's gonna be more than 30 hours.
Do we know what that total is?
The closer it gets, I'll have a better idea, because like I said, besides, I know Hidden Valley with 2 of theirs, besides Hidden Valley, we're the only fireworks show out here right now. And we're gonna have, I'm expecting a fairly large crowd.
Well,
I'm
apparently they're
expecting-
not.
I know.
I don't know, there's other fireworks shows and such.
Oh, I didn't know that there were others that day.
Yeah, there'll be others that day, sure.
Well, for what it's worth, we can't really approve any of these expenditures because we currently have no line item to expense them out of anyway until Wednesday. Wednesday we can, because then we would have a line item to be able to expense it out of. Could we ask for like a hardcore, like, this is the number of hours we need, so council can approve it? I mean, if you give me the hours, literally, I can type in the number of hours and it'll spit it out and we're good.
30 total hours, is that what it is, or what?
No,
Was that
no.
for 6? Did you calculate what was that 6?
It was,
Did you say 5?
I did 5 officers.
She said
5
5.
officers.
Not
Not including
including
yourself.
Not-
our normal
That's whatever's on the road.
That's
Yeah,
fine.
and that would
That's not
be
fair.
great.
You
Might as well put in.
I'm volunteering my time. I've done it for how many years? For every We Thrive Festival and every Oktoberfest, so it's not a big deal to me.
It's a 10, 11, 12, 13-hour day.
No, realistically, you're gonna have 5 officers there. You can figure 5 times 8, and Don's 8 more is 48.
And then don't we also, so the other weird question is they're getting time and a half on this day, but also are we gonna run the rest of our officers making overtime later?
What do you mean?
So they get paid, after they clear 40 hours in a week currently, they get paid overtime. So this one event, they're here for 8 hours, some of our officers may kick over into the overtime status for that week just to cover the village. Does that make sense?
In other words, they'll have a total of more than 40 hours. That's,
So you're paying time and a half on a holiday, and then you're probably paying, you could be paying time and a half later date.
Couldn't council set it like we do for mayor's court and for county court, where it doesn't, you pay them that rate, but it doesn't go, that doesn't count towards their weekly hours? My guys go to court now, they got 32 hours, they get 4 hours of court time, but it doesn't go against their hours.
I'm looking at you,
Or
Bob.
doesn't?
It does, they get, when the guys come to mayor's court, they get 1 hour, they get 2 hours of pay for their regular salary. The former chief got time and a half, and the clerk of court gets time and a half for the 2 hours she's here. So in the ordinance for the chief, it does say that he's paid for mayor's court at an overtime rate for 2 hours, and the clerk of court is the same way. And the former chief, if any officer who was not on duty, mayor's court night, was in attendance at mayor's court, he always turned in 2 hours for that officer. In fact, I had it today for a couple officers.
So can we, does that work, Bob? Can we set up an event where they come in and work, but it doesn't count towards their clearing 40 hours a week to go to overtime?
No.
I didn't think so.
Because of the Fair Labor Standard Act, you can't do
So
that.
that's gonna be a scheduling for you to figure out. One officer is not gonna go into extra overtime hours.
How many officers do we have that are working that much time though with us?
Right now, I've got Pate, Webb,
Is there-
both working 32 a week.
Are they both scheduled that day already?
I haven't made the July schedule yet, I'll get ready to do that tomorrow.
I was saying you could, if it works that way, can you take the ones that already get the most hours now and make them the regular person, so it's not an extra, I mean, they're gonna get the time and a half, but it's not gonna be an extra time and a half later on in the week, and that's already part of their
And
schedule.
I still don't know how many of our guys are actually gonna be available for this, because they all have other jobs.
Yeah, okay.
And that's the other thing, that's the other reason why we're wanting to set the detail at the $30 an hour, because if I can't cover it with our guys, if they're not available, I've gotta go to an outside agency to get people.
Right.
How does that work when we basically rent our, when we go out and rent somebody to cover an event?
They would get $10.99.
I don't think have we ever done that before?
No, we've never
I
done.
don't think we have a set policy procedure or anything for that one.
Well,
Have we done that?
Yes, we did, with the plant across the street. We have sheriff's deputies over there, and police.
I'm sorry, Don.
That's all right. I know.
So we have done it?
We had regular village employees who refused a paycheck and wanted it in a regular check on the other side of the accounting with the 990.
With the 990.
Or 1090 or whatever now it's called.
What's it, 1099?
But things have happened that, like I said, I know people get aggravated when I say I
Well,
like
that's
this and I
not
like that.
it, though.
but, you know,
I mean, in other words, you should just come back tomorrow and tell them who you've got to work and who you don't have to work. Because the other thing they're gonna need to know, if you have to branch out and get county deputies or whatever, then tell them that. That way they'll know what the cost is and they'll know whether go forward, back, or whatever. I mean, that's all that they have to calculating, I mean, it's not like, you know, it's one thing to have the money and to be able to pay them $30, okay? So if you have the money and pay them $30, wouldn't be an issue, but the law says they're your employees. You know, they're not working a detail for a bank or across the street at the plant or anything like that. That's what the problem is. And when all this started to come up, I don't think anybody in the village thought that they were gonna be running this event. And then when it got closer and it started to get to the permit, and Margret called me up, I said, guess what? You just inherited a festival. Because that's essentially what it is. So now it's the village running this and being responsible for it. And Margaret's gonna pay them how she's supposed to pay them. The village is obligated to pay what it's supposed to pay when it gets a purchase order. I told Margret to call the insurance company and make sure we're covered, everything like that. Fire department should be notified how many people you expect so that they're prepared for what it is, the hours, etc. And, you know, thank goodness you don't have a union maintenance department. Or we'd be talking about paying them.
Right.
And if we go to exterior entities, don't they set their rate like we would? So like if we needed a Hamilton County officer, aren't they gonna say you're paying 35 an hour or whatever?
42 an hour for county.
Okay, so let's not do that.
42 an hour for the city of Cheviot. $36 an hour for Mount St. Joe.
It's 35 for Cheviot.
They just went to 42.
I just talked to the guy
I've
today.
seen
He's wrong
25.
because I just talked to their union rep. It's 42 an hour. If it's in Cheviot, it is that. If it's outside, they get like the city does, 42 an hour.
And we need one officer for how many?
1 per 200, that's the minimum.
So you're thinking we're gonna have 1,000 people here?
That's what I'm thinking.
Let's hope so.
Thinking up to 1,000.
What time you starting, Don?
Starts at noon.
You gonna have them on all day?
No, I don't think we're gonna get a larger crowd till later in the day.
All right.
And do we
I will
know,
pick up on guys later on the day.
do we know who else is arriving that day in the village?
What do you mean?
Oh, our protesters.
Oh, yeah.
That could be another.
So, that's another thing that you should anticipate and provide notice to the fire chief about. And really, the chip, because you may need all hands on deck at that time.
Chip's gonna be gone.
In other words,
Chip said he's not worried
Shit,
about
I'll
it.
be here. Maintenance, well, I need to let them know what's going on.
but the thing that I'm saying, that's another thing that you should plan not only on the festival, but for what possibly could occur under a worst case scenario, based on what you know. And yes, Margaret, at some point, council had to say insurance, and yes, they do need it.
Okay. So what do I'll just contact them and tell them, and I'll just hold the money until I get the proof, and I don't get the
Correct.
proof, I give it back to
Then they
them.
don't come.
Okay.
All right, so I guess we probably need a motion to allow the officers this overtime on, based on how many hours.
Or do we want to, so I guess the other question I had, and this would really be Margaret for UAN. So does get that funds out of the new donation line item? Or do we have to take it out of the already established salary line
Well,
items?
I think what's gonna have to happen is we're gonna have to transfer the money from that fund into the payroll side, because I don't have it set up in the system to withdraw money from that account for all the items I need for payroll. It's not coded that way.
Okay, so we'll have to do a whole appropriations adjustment of joy.
As it comes in,
Yeah.
after it comes in.
Well, after it comes in and I need to make the payment.
So what we need to see now is whatever money that's out there, ticket sales or whatever coming in, it needs to get into this account.
Where are the ticket
Immediately.
sales coming in for?
The raffle. So
Um,
all of that needs to be into, which should be in a timely manner anyhow, into the
I've
treasurer.
not
clerk fund.
received anything from ticket sales. As I said, and I gave a copy to the mayor on what I've actually recorded in my system. The treasurer, as I said, I have copies of those checks that I gave her for the deposit, but I don't have them in hand yet. And as far as the ticket sales, I've not received, like, no one's turned anything to me, if it's coming to the village, or
I do have a question while we're on this. We're using a Venmo account for donations. How is that being handled? Doesn't Venmo have to be attached to a checking account or a bank account?
What do you mean?
So on our Facebook, it says donations can be sent via Venmo or Cash App to Addyston. That has to be linked to a digital bank account.
I don't know, can you explain that one
That was
to
on
me?
the food drive, is it
Didn't know
on?
nothing about that.
it's
That
all,
was on the-
no,
what's it on the
it's for this.
It's on, I got it on the food drive and some other stuff. I was just, how are we doing that? Like, whose bank account is that linked to? Because it's not the village's.
That's a good question, because I don't have the answer for that one. But I guarantee you I will have it tonight.
I would like to make a motion that we do not use any of these digital apps that don't directly link or go through our village bank account, because that is an unholy nightmare going to someone else's bank account.
You know why?
Yeah, I mean, I've used something like that, but it was like
With Audrey and Steve.
What you used was called My Event,
Yeah,
and we used it for the Hitchens
and
fundraiser.
it went into
And
your
it went
account.
right to the village account, but the council authorized that, and it was set up, and we got the reading.
Because that's what we should have used for this, is my events for donations, because then it's linked directly to.
But council
the-
should still pass it.
Yeah.
Protect.
No,
For
it-
the specific one, yeah.
Okay,
I think it-
I'll second Steve's motion, let's get that
My
off.
motion.
Your motion, that motion, so we can get that off the floor.
is that the Venmo?
Just not to use any,
Not to use any digital thing that is not directly linked to the village checking account. or
For
bank account.
donations.
Yes, for anything. It should be linked directly to the village account.
All right.
yeah, we know you're gonna.
Or it should
Motion
be
by
set up.
Steve,
to-
second by Pam, is there any other discussion? No discussion, we'll vote.
Lisa Stafford.
Yay.
Pam Dalton.
Yeah.
Steve Dalton.
Yay.
Pam Jackson.
Yeah.
And as far as the Venmo account is concerned, who set that up, Don?
We
Looks
think,
like Officer Pay.
uh-oh,
Oops.
where's he at? He's gone, he's lucky for the evening. Oh,
Okay,
Oh, he's not out of my reach.
who set up the cash app?
I'm guessing the same, that is going to be addressed as soon as we are done here.
And the other one is the Addyston memo line community relations PO box. 456, who's that?
It must have been a typo, because our post office box is 536.
That's why I'm wondering also, it says you can pay by check payable to the village of Addyston memo line community relations.
Hold on, which one?
I have no idea what that is. And they've got a box set up apparently over here.
No.
Oh, no, there's another box set up over there, but it's for the police department.
Is that
So
what,
that way,
their
their
box.
mail wasn't getting
is that was
involved with
546?
her mail. Because she didn't want them going to check for mail, and since we have things coming in specifically for the police department, she gave them a PO box.
Okay. Her
Kelly.
being Kelly. Okay, but
Can I say something on that? It's
Shouldn't
not
that-
that I didn't want the police going over there getting the mail. It's always been like Aaron or whomever was the secretary, and when they're not here, then the clerk would go over and get it. After John Calvert, the tax commissioner, passed away, that's how it was set up. And my concern was that from the previous police chief, there was some issues that came up. So that's why I said that the police should not be picking up the mail. And if Erin gets the mail, she would give it to all of us. Or if I get the mail, I'd see the right person got it.
And that's actually in the policy and procedure manual, I believe, under her position description.
The duties thing.
I'm pretty sure. Since we're on that subject.
Right, to get the mail.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So then I guess make the motion to authorize once the money's there and we get it, I guess we do that tomorrow night. We just wanted you guys to know that we are for this, we just have to, gotta rein it in and we gotta do it for the village, but we want this to go forward but we'll have to pay him at the time and a half. Just give us a set amount of hours and then we can vote on it tomorrow.
Or we probably want to wait till Wednesday till the line item's approved, that we can actually expense it out of.
And hopefully some more's in that account, then have a better handle on what's what.
Now,
Margaret,
this,
so you have to
Please?
post
That
it,
work?
when you post the meetings,
Mhm.
post it for discussion of that also.
Okay, I'll include that because I had posted it, tried to protect us.
now that's the other thing, I don't know, to me needs to be addressed. We need to find some way to have village oversight on these three things because it's already been put out there. We have no idea where the money's coming in, if it came in, who it went to, and if any, God forbid, any of that should be finding its way into somebody else's pocket as opposed to going to this. That kind of bothers me that was set up that way, but
Yeah.
you know, it, again, like you said, it's an after the fact thing. I think this is a great idea. I love it, but, you know, if our name is on the bill, you know.
It gotta be on the back of the check.
Yes, exactly. Thank you.
So we'll just get that, amount of hours and what you're anticipating and pass this other stuff and we'll be on our roll. Continue on, I guess.
But that Wednesday, it would be nice if you could come with, kind of like how Chip does, here's everything we need for the 4th of July event. That way we approve, everything's approved, we know where it's approved from. We're not putting Margaret in this odd position of, hey, we need the money and she's got nowhere to put, everything's approved, we're good to go.
Okay.
So if we could have that for Wednesday when we meet, once we have, hopefully, unless we don't approve it, but once we have that line item to be able to have it all taken care of.
She did submit an
She did.
estimated budget.
Yeah, I know, I have it right here.
I mean,
I've been looking at it.
Because we
just
had
it
to have
needs to
that.
be updated. Just make sure that, I mean,
Is our treasurer coming back tomorrow? Is she gonna be able to get that thing deposited so that we can?
if not, I can, I normally do the deposit. She comes in and picks up the deposit receipt from the bank and then she brings me back a receipt. I can't do anything until I get that official receipt as far as entering stuff into my system. But I will email her or I will text her and ask her if she's back and I will let her know that, that there's deposits that I
There's
need
an
receipts
urgency on
for.
that, and we need to see it by Wednesday.
Is she out of town? Is that what's
Well,
going
she
on?
was out of town Friday. She went to Kentucky, so she may not be back.
Yeah, 'cause all of our receipts should be done in a timely manner, not just.
Well, it's 72 hours is what they say.
Yeah, so we don't want that, and other things going on too. But I think that's it, as far as my agenda. Unless there's anything else.
Don, did you have anything?
Everyone's wore out at this point. But what I will, we do need to have a laws and contracts meeting too, but that, I would like to see us do something that recognizing this, what's the title again, the policing initiative?
Yeah, if you want to recognize that title, that's fine, or just leave it under the Village of Addyston, I don't really care.
That and to do the detail pay, because we do need it if we should have to go outside for any reason.
or somebody wants to come in and use our
Right.
officers.
Either one, yeah. We'll put that on the laws and contracts agenda.
Is that it?
Doesn't have a report?
Done.
You don't have anything, Dawn?
No, no.
Make a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Motion by Steve, second by Dan Dalton, to adjourn. Any discussion? No discussion, we'll vote.
Lisa Stafford,
Yay.
Dan Dalton,
Yay.
Steve Dalton,
Yay.
and Batson.
Yay.
I think it's the first time I've ever gotten to make that motion.
No, it isn't, and you better quit. It's my job.
Oh, you know what we forgot? Yes, I did. Yes, we did.
What did
What?
we forget?
12 hours for
forgot
5 officers.
No.
Oh, it's the last meeting he's gonna be at.
Just got to sneak out.
It is his last meeting, isn't it?
He's not gonna show us tomorrow.
It's okay to come, you want to hold on that?
Our special meeting.
Hey, Chip.
Figure it out.
No, yeah, we forgot about Chip. This is his last official meeting. Hey, no, Chip can't leave because we didn't accept his resignation.
Oh, that's true, we didn't accept
Yeah, we
that.
did not accept it.
So,
So you can't
we
leave.
need to have something.
Get your butt back here.